Me again. I am just doing the intro video for Dave Blount. Now, I've done this a couple of times and neither of them worked. But essentially what I'm supposed to tell you is Dave is a circuit steward whose main responsibility is property, and he is a local preacher. And of the circuit stewards, he's the baby of the team. Now, that doesn't mean he's young, like he's old compared to me, but he's the baby of the team. And yeah, what follows is a really good conversation. You don't get to see us eating our lamb and mint pies with mushy peas because, we took that off camera. But I'm really excited to share this conversation with you, with my good friend, Dave Blount. Right, well, we'll make a start and we'll go with these snacks before we get on to the main course. That's fine. So we're here again, another episode of People Make NNE. I've just told everybody from the car that you're the baby of the stewards team.
I am.
So we'll find out by how much in a little bit. But we'll crack on, shall we?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
so, Dave, we're here in your garden. Can you tell me your full name?
That's easy. David Blount. No middle names. Nothing embarrassing. I'm another one.
There are so many of you out there. It's almost as if there's a generation of parents that had no imagination.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. So, Dave, how old are you?
I'm 47. So, yes, I am the baby of the stewarding team.
47, yeah. I'm still younger than you, though.
You are still younger than me.
And
quite substantially, yes.
I'll claim that for as long as I can, which is forever.
Yeah.
So Dave, what is your role here in Nottingham North East?
Okay, so I carry two roles out really for the circuit. So I'm a local preacher, so we'll go around all the churches preaching as and when, and I'm also the circuit property steward for the circuit. So that means looking after the properties that belong to the circuit, so that's mainly the mansas, the vicarages, and then giving advice to the churches and administrating one or two roles for them as well.
Very good. That carries with it lots of different bits and pieces, doesn't it?
Yeah. From technical expertise and advice to administration as well, and other things, form fillings, etc.
Okay, so it sounds riveting.
Yeah, oh yeah, some of it is.
So where is your church base here in the
so
circuit?
we live in Nuttall and we worship in Nuttall. So that's where we are and where we worship as a family.
Okay, so how long? Firstly, how long have you been kind of in those roles?
Okay, in those roles, so I was accredited as a local preacher coming up for 21 years ago. It'll be 21 years in December.
Okay.
So I went on to full plan just before we moved. So 21 years as a local preacher. About 4 years training before that. So it's almost my silver anniversary of preaching. And we've lived in Nuttall for about 21 years as well. It was all a very similar sort of time in completing the course and buying the house and moving down here. And I've been a circuit steward. I was trying to work it out. I think it's about 11 years.
Okay.
So yes, for various circuits for Nottingham North and then Nottingham North East. A little bit before that for the old Erewash circuit.
Brilliant. So every time kind of Nuttall has changed circuits, the clock's restarted.
It has. Yeah,
so you're back to
again.
only just like 2 years.
A couple of years in, that's all again. Yeah.
It's like time just keeps getting added to your sentence.
It is a sentence sometimes. Yeah.
So. This is a voluntary thing that you do. It's part of your service to the church, and I'm fully aware that you really enjoy your local preaching, and you actually quite enjoy some of the circuit steward stuff as well.
Yeah.
But what do you do kind of with
my real
of
job?
Your time? What's your real job?
Okay, so I get paid to be a senior estimator, pre-construction roles for construction companies. So that is basically pricing up building projects, putting bids in to build them out for various clients, etc. It's the larger scale projects, so big student accommodation, hospital work, not brand new hospitals, but hospital projects, medical, schools, or anything really, so general contracting. But I price it up front end, pull the bids together, submit the price, and then we either win or lose it.
Okay, so actually some of those skills from work carry over into the property side of things, because know if some work needs doing on a manse,
what it's going to cost.
You've got in your head
who to talk to.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it is a transferable skill, definitely.
And some of those kind of legal things that come through about property, you're already aware from the planning side of things, what things should look like. And
I am. Yeah, it doesn't really stress me out doing any of those because they're just what I do day to day anyway. So
very
not
good.
a problem.
And you've done that most of your working career?
I have, yeah. So I left university 25 years ago and went straight into a trainee role at that point, and I've just worked my way up the ladder a little bit. And I'm now in a transferring slot at the minute where I'm in the middle of changing employees at the moment. So.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It sounds exciting.
Yeah.
So as we talk together, as I've gone around the circuit, people have provided me with food and drink. Yeah. And you've obviously got the benefit of having seen a number of these interviews and what people have brought. Yeah. So what have you decided?
Okay, so I thought since you're here at lunchtime, Mark, we needed to feed you properly. We'll go for a full lunch, and it gave me a free chance to go shopping as well. So I had my opportunity to go and to buy what I might buy for lunch. So Catherine's very kindly cooking it for us at the minute, but I've gone for a pie with mushy peas, a bit of gravy on the side, and then followed by a vanilla slice, and we've got some cherries on the table as well.
Amazing.
All my sort of favourite type foods.
So this is less about me and more about you.
It's more about me, absolutely. But I did check that you like pies, and the answer was yes. I knew you'd be all right with that. So.
You did. I'm very happy with your choice.
Yes.
So I know that's in the oven. We've got another 7 minutes or so. I think we'll crack on with the quick fire, and
that's fine.
Then we'll pause to eat a little bit later.
Okay.
So these quick fire questions. What's your favourite flavour of cake?
It's a difficult one because I do like a bit of cake. I've got down. I think if it was a go-to choice, I couldn't have anything else. It would be fruit cake.
Okay.
A good, rich fruit cake. So I like my Christmas cakes. So fruit cake would be my choice. I've gone vanilla slice today because they're always quite attractive when they're on the shelf, you know. And if it was a sponge, quite like just a fairly normal sponge, caramel flavours or carrot cake, something like that, possibly a little bit more.
Interesting.
But yeah, it'd be fruit cake first choice.
Okay.
Every time.
Vanilla slice is better for a day like today,
it's
I feel,
beautiful
than fruit
today,
cake.
yes, absolutely.
And although we've said you're the baby, but I was saying to Linda on her conversation that fruitcake's quite an older person's choice. So
I am quite an old person, some ways, and a little bit like Kath, when you interviewed her, she brought the cheese out with her fruitcake. That's a tradition. I'm Derbyshire, not Yorkshire, but it's still a tradition where I am as well. So we'd have a bit of cheese with our fruitcake as well.
So all these people in this circuit team who would get on really well together.
It's funny that, isn't it? Yeah. In fact, I feel like I've just copied answers from one person. I've been cherry picking them out, actually.
Well, yeah. I think that's what makes it such a good team, actually.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So tea or coffee, Dave?
Tea or coffee? Probably out of choice, it would be coffee. Although these days I only drink decaf, pretty much anyway. Really affects my sleep if I don't. I like black coffee. I'm like you, it will be strong black coffee, but without the caffeine for me. And then I'd have the odd tea, don't mind an odd cup of tea, but again, decaf, as I say, it really has an effect on me, so I try and avoid caffeine if I can. And most of the day I just drink water, which is what we've got today. More water.
Brilliant. What about sport? Are you a sportsman?
I'm a sportsman. I like watching sport. I'm not a player. I've got very poor hand-eye coordination in that respect, so I've never been good at sport. I was never quite the last to be picked in line, but I was near the end. So I don't really play anything. If I do, it depends whether you class it as sport. I'd go and play snooker or pool. I class that as sport, but some people might not. But I enjoy playing that now and again when I get time. I enjoy watching cricket. That'd be my first go-to at all levels and in most formats as well, whether it be first class over 4 or 5 days or quickfire 2020, which I'm at tonight. The jury's still out on the 100 yet, not been there yet, so we'll see. And Nottinghamshire County Cricket Club, although I'm Derbyshire born and bred, but it's Nottinghamshire for me.
That's quite a family thing, isn't it?
It is a family, yes, we go as a family, yeah, so it's something we all do together, which is great. Yeah.
Great. What about films? Are you a film man?
Yeah, I'm not an avid film watcher.
Okay.
But I was trying to think of favourite film when you asked me these questions or sent them through to me. I don't think there is a favourite film, but action movies, whether it be things like the Die Hard type stuff or Under Siege or Bond, those sort of movies. Probably if I had to pick one, there's a film that goes back to my teenage years, really, late teenagers, which is Highlander. Okay. Which is includes a lot of Queen songs, which we'll come to in a minute. And it's sort of the Immortals Through Time, but again, it's an action movie.
Right.
So that'd be where I'd go to first choice every time.
Has to have that pace to it to keep you engaged.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so Queen you've hinted at.
Yeah.
Music?
Music. Yeah, so Queen probably would be one of my favourite bands. There's a song they do called Father to Son, which means a lot to me. So that will be probably the first. Things like Bon Jovi, 80s rock. I'm a bit of a 80s rock, soft rock, not heavy. And then things like Adele as well, and Celeste from jazz scene now as well. Like, I've got some of her stuff. And then on a more Christian note, Joanne Hogg, she's ex-Iona, the band Iona. I've got Be Thou My Vision down as one of the songs that she sings, which it means a lot. I was thinking about this driving. I've been driving around this morning a little bit, and when I think about it, all those people have all got strong voices, and I think that comes through mainly. Right. I like a little bit of just music, in the jazz scene, but it would be strong voices seem to come over to me. So yeah, I think that's the common thread.
Okay, I'm going to be on my best behaviour and not mention your strong voice.
No, well, that comes later.
What hobbies do you have, Dave, in that infinite amounts of spare time?
I've got that down here. Time's against me on that. Going to watch cricket would be one of them. Certainly relax doing that. DIY, I know some people see that as a chore, but for me it's not. It's a relaxation. Using my hands, doing something. When I'm using my mind, mine's going at work all day on the computer a lot of the time. So actually getting my hands dirty, if you like, or physical is where I like to be. I've always got to have a project on. Catherine and the kids will tell you I always need a project on the go at the minute. So yeah, that will be my hobby. My hobbies really when I get time.
And what about hidden talents?
As you've alluded to, it's not singing. Yeah, can't sing. I was just talking to my mum this morning and about a couple of these questions, see if I could get a couple of hints on a couple of them. But she sings. She won singing competitions when she was a young lady and still sings these days. But it didn't pass to me. No. So not singing.
Most definitely didn't.
Hidden talent. I don't know if I've really got anything, but I asked the family, and I got the same answer from all three of them, is that I can talk to anyone.
Okay.
So if we're out and about, whoever it is, taxi drivers, shopkeepers, people sat at the side of me at cricket, I'll start a conversation and on whatever we'll talk. I'll talk to anyone, whatever background, whatever really. I can get into a conversation with most people. Yeah.
What would you say is your greatest achievement?
Again, I could go the sort of straight routes and say having family and children, which it is, important part of my life, and I'm sure it is with us all. Going back 20 years was passing my faith and worship course and the local preaching course in the day, and more recently I've sat a course, and that was a big challenge, was doing it's the Institute of Leadership and Management, and I did a course on that over nearly 3 years in the end because of COVID, etc. But getting through that on it with a good level and completing it as well was an achievement for me. So yeah, probably those three things.
Great. Do you have any tenuous links to a celebrity?
Yeah, that's where I was quizzing my mum on this morning. No, we can't think of any at all, and none of us can. So they really are tenuous. You'll know that I get teased a bit at various people that you know as well about my black tie events through work and various things. So
surely there's people you've met
there are one or two, but I'm only from a distance. They've been at the front speaking. So the one that I have met is George Clark from Amazing Spaces off Channel 4. So I've met him after the event and had a few words with him. So that is really tenuous, but that's as good as it gets.
Okay. Yeah. And this question has gone all sorts of different directions, but everyone's kind of said there are things that I'm not telling you. Yeah. But here's what I'm willing to tell you. So what are you willing to tell me that nobody or very few people know?
Okay. Yeah, I had a good think about this one. So there's a couple of things here. So people might not know, but as a teenager and then a bit later in life, I did jiu-jitsu and then karate. Not to black belt standard. I'm not an expert, but I have done certainly probably 3 or 4 years if I had it all together of martial arts classes, etc. So yeah, I know a little bit, but I'm not. It doesn't strike you as a.
I wouldn't have guessed.
No, you wouldn't have guessed.
But now I'm thinking twice about picking a fight with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so so that's one of them. The other one, which you do know about, I know, but a lot of people don't, is I still do a bit of stamp collecting. Yeah. So, and more over lockdown. Actually, it's something I picked back up over lockdown. It brings me quite close to my dad. My dad passed away 19 years ago, and it's something we used to do together as in teenage and early 20s. So I've got his collection, if you like, and brought them together. So it brings me quite close to him,
Okay.
which is quite nice, really.
Take this the right way when I say that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Personally,
It doesn't, no.
but
Tiny bits of
I can
paper in an
see-
album doesn't do a lot for a lot of people, I know. It's made a lot easier these days with things like eBay and stuff like that, and yeah.
I thought you were going to say things like emails, because
No,
there's
no.
less stamps to collect.
Yeah, no, eBay is choosing stuff.
There we go. So this will be just ready for dinner. But tell me what random item
Okay.
you brought with us that tells us
You can see
something
them on the
about
table
you.
now. I brought two, so they're part of my tools of my trade.
Okay.
So I brought my scale rule,
Right.
whether it be a ruler or a scale rule. This is my scale rule, and this particular one, which is still the one I use to today, I've had since I was 18 when I went to university. So this
Okay.
is 29 years old now.
Right.
Okay, so it's a little bit worn in one or two places, but that's the one I still use on drawings today. And I brought my calculator again, big buttons, but it's something that sits on my desk that I use. It sums me up, so it's part of my work, it's part of what I do for the circuit as well. Measurement, being precise, yeah, that's me.
You like things done properly,
I
don't
do,
you, Dave?
I do, yeah. I do,
Well, there we go.
yeah, so they're my items.
Brill. Well, this is the point where we'll go away and
Well,
have our
pause.
lunch, and
Good
then
idea.
we'll come back and talk about more serious things.
Excellent, superb.
So,
It's better?
that's better. You'll all be pleased to know that we've eaten and we've spared you having to watch us
Yeah.
be jealous of
Absolutely.
our lamb and mint pies with mushy peas and gravy. But we might ungracefully eat some of these cherries, and we don't quite have a spittoon for the pits, but we'll
See how we go.
we'll do it as well as we can. So, we've heard about you. We've heard about some of the things that make you who you are, and
Yeah.
how old you are, and all those important
all those
facts.
bits and pieces, yeah.
This is where we get into more of your story
Yeah.
and your experiences and how you've come to this place. And I know you. I know you claim this label of Christianity, but it's quite an important label for you to have.
Yeah.
How have you come to this point in your life?
How I come to this point? Okay, this slightly connected, this question and the next one, but I'll try and separate them if I can.
We can blend them.
We can
and
blend them as
I'll
need
pick
be,
up
yeah,
on
okay.
something.
So it's all about family groups for me again. I was born into a Christian household, loving Christian household with history of worshipping. Went right through Sunday school as a child, through youth groups. And took a commitment at about, I would say I was about 14, so I did become a member of the Methodist Church at about 14, did membership classes and became a member, some commitment there. I don't think you always realise what you've got until later. You look back at some of the people that led me through those formative years,
Yep.
both in Sunday school and in youth groups, and provided a lot of support for me at the time. So you realise that afterwards, and they're not always around to tell them either what they've done for you.
Yep.
But they're around. So I went away at 18 to Newcastle to university, and very fortunately joined METHSOC there.
Back in the day.
Back in the day. So got to Newcastle through clearing, and there wasn't all the Facebook pages. You didn't meet people before you went. You were just thrown in the deep end. I remember being dropped off and left on a Sunday afternoon, or maybe a Saturday. But anyway, we got there. And didn't know where I was, what I was doing, or anything really. Fortunately, I had received some stuff through the post from METHSOC, because that was the way it worked. Your superintendent pass your details on to the local
In the network,
as it were. And it's only that kept me there. I'm absolutely sure of that. Certainly for the first 4, 5, 6 weeks, I would have left at any time, and it was only being able to go to my first service and meet people who'd been there a few years or who were new like myself. That kept me. So again, another church family. We worshipped in a church, the METHSOC organisation worshipped in a church in Jesmond. We know somebody who's there now, funnily enough. So, but we worshipped in that church. At the time, they had very little youth or Sunday school, but they supported the student population remarkably well. You know, Sunday lunches. And we were invited to activities, we were involved in church councils, the whole thing. We were part of that church, and a very important part of it. First building project happened while I was there, funnily enough. So yeah, that supported me through my, all the way through my university life, but certainly that massive support in the first term, really, I suppose, was what I needed, which was there. And I guess that 4 years with those friends and with the chaplain at the time, who I'm still in touch with, I grew quite a lot in that 4 years. So although I'd done Sunday school and youth groups and things, and made a commitment in my teens, it was that 4 year period that really my Christian faith grew, and I learned more about myself and, you know, other people and things, really. Those friendship groups still exist today. We still go away with a group of those people every year. So another family group, if you like. And then we came to Nuttall. So, I mean, I'm not that far away, so my mum's only 12 miles away from here.
Okay.
So it's not that big a move for me. Catherine's not too far, Doncaster down to here. But I was working in Nottingham at the time, and then Catherine got a job at Nottingham. So we needed to look for a house. We looked at sort of central locations, and Nuttall was one of them. Absolutely sure that we were guided and led here. We looked at one house which wasn't suitable. We came here. We met the people who, it turned out, worshipped at Nuttall Methodist Church, and that was it, really. You know, we ended up buying the house, and we said, right, we'll try some local churches. We'll try the Methodist ones first, because I was a local preacher, so it sort of sets a bit of precedent, really. And we went first Sunday to our local church, and we never tried anywhere else, because again, we were straight away accepted into that family group, and we're still here now and have no intentions of moving on, really. And as we started there, they were planning a building project. So yeah. So I think that's my Christianity journey up to that point. And I say at that point I qualified as a local preacher, because I went home after university for a number of years, and it was that point I did my training and then qualified, and before we moved here. And then things, you know, my journey's continued and grown over the years. But yeah, that's why Christianity. And yeah, you always question. In your local preaching course, you're told to question, which you do, but I've never not found the answer or the support that I need, so that's why.
There we go. And by the sounds of things, I'm preempting your answer to the why Methodist. It's the family thing.
Our cradle Methodists. It's the same old answer we've had time and time again.
Yeah.
So yeah, my dad was a local preacher. We worshipped in the Methodist church. Went to university at the Methodist church and moved here.
But more than just the cradle, it's a family thing, because you found family.
Correct.
In the Methodist church as well.
Yeah, and wherever you go, that family, those connections are there. You'll always know somebody. Well, they talk about 6 degrees of separation around the world, don't they? I think it's about 1.5 in the Methodist church. So wherever you go, there'll be somebody. I mean, when I first started preaching in the circuit I was in, there was one church in the whole circuit that I could go to where there wasn't a family member there, as in a blood family member, however distant, whether it be cousin or whatever. There was one church in the whole circuit. So yeah, so it is a family thing. Methodist church, though, for me, as I say, we would have tried other churches, and we've got friends who have moved to other churches because of it, because that's where they live in and what's suited them at the time. But for me, the Methodist table, it's the open table, it's the openness, it's the accepting, it's the inclusivity, that everybody's welcome. We can all take communion, whether that's the first time you've ever walked in a church or your 1,000th time walking in a church. You're welcome at that table, and that for me is very important. I've been to churches where, even as a Christian and a member at a church, because it was a different denomination, I wasn't allowed to take communion, and that actually, it hurts.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an important thing that everybody has got that entitlement when they walk in that church building for me. So yeah, wherever we go, whatever we do, we always know someone, or near enough, or we know someone who knows someone.
Yeah, I guess that's really good to hear, and it's a really important thing that we perhaps need to shout about a little bit more.
Maybe so, yeah.
And I think there are
excuse me,
there are times coming within the life of the church where that table is just as open as it has always been. But I think perhaps more people are becoming aware that table is a place where they can be safe.
Exactly.
And it's part of our responsibility to protect that table.
Protect it and welcome you to it. Definitely welcome you to it. Yeah. So
brilliant. When and how did you get your calling to do what you do? So obviously we've got the two strands here. Okay. We're talking about local preaching, and we're talking about Circuit Stewards.
Property. Okay. Right. Well, let's start with the easy one. So property. I knew from an early age what I was going to do. Architecture was possibly from an early age, but it was always property design, draftsman type roles. Always had an interest in it. That's where I was going. So right through school, doing my GCSEs, then my A-levels, they were always picked in that sort of line. Right. So craft design, technology as it was in the day, bit of geography, physics, maths, that sort of thing. So that was always part of career choices. Went to university, did a building surveying degree. That was fine. So it's always been, property's always been, or buildings have always been my thing. So it's not architecture, but it's connected. So that's the easy thing. Then obviously because of that, you get asked for advice, you get involved in projects as soon as you move somewhere. Yeah. And that happens. And I see it as important. I'm using what I class as God-given gifts. It's what I do. Yeah. It's what I do on a daily basis. But God's given me those gifts. He's provided that support group as I went through university. I give something back to share it, and it's what God gives to me. So that's the easy part.
Yep.
Local preaching, that's a bit more challenging. So as I say, when I went to university, that 4-year period I was there was where I grew. And I can count 3 occasions, there were possibly more, when there was a calling or a challenging, shall we say. As I said, my dad was a local preacher, so I don't know, it wasn't expected, but there's a little bit of thought, and I grew up in the church, so certainly by a couple of family members it was, well, when are you going to do your local preaching course or whatever. It's not for me, because I'm not a wordsmith, as you know, I can speak, but I get tongue-tied sometimes. If it's numbers and calculators, I'm fine. Yeah. It's not my bag. English isn't really where I am, so it wasn't my first thought. So every time somebody said that to me, certainly on 2 occasions, the answer was no. That's not me. I'm different. Although a lot of people say I am my dad, I am just a mini version. So, but yeah. So, and then I went to a national METSOC event in probably the middle of my final year, and I wish I had the sort of memory that could tell you the speaker was there, or actually where it was. But I don't have that sort of memory, because I don't jot those sort of things down and then I forget them. But I went to this event with a group of friends, and we were stood listening to a speaker, and there was a prayer time where we were actually quite close to each other. It's a bit strange to us these days, being quite close to each other, but
even this is close.
We were next to each other, possibly arms round or whatever, and there was a prayer that went on, and that's when God said, this is what you're going to do.
Okay.
I got that buzzing, tingly feeling. It was there, and it was right, this is what you're meant to do. So I finished my final year at university. It wasn't really worth starting anything. I'd probably only got 4 months left of my course, and I was obviously into dissertations and final exams, so it wasn't the ideal time. But I did speak to my minister at the holiday I came home in or whatever, and by the time I came home in the summer, I was then signed up to do the local preaching course, which, because in those days there was a lot more written word and things, was quite challenging for me. Writing essays and things is not my thing. I can write them, but I'm very brief. I don't put the detail in.
Okay.
So get to the point, write it, and that's it. So I was very fortunate. I had a lady who actually taught me at primary school, who was my local preacher supervisor.
Right.
A lady called Tansy, and she supported me through that and got me through it. Put up with all my excuses for not writing stuff and various things, but she got me through that, and in a 4-year period. That was my calling, and still is today.
I expect as somebody who likes to get to the point, having to elaborate on something takes a bit of effort.
It does, yeah. It's having to write more words and things. In fact, if I find all my school reports out, they'll all say the same. Could write more.
But essentially got it right.
Yeah, the answer's there. But now they give you marks, don't you, for the workings out.
I
wouldn't be that person. I'd get the final answer and get the mark, but I wouldn't have got all the bits in between. So
there we go.
So,
what Bible story or passage or verse or maybe character or whatever, something from the Bible that kind of helps you to live out your faith?
Okay.
What is it that sums up why you live the way you live?
Why I live, okay. There's a number of answers, and I could think of quite a few reasons for this, as I'm sure everybody you've interviewed could have done.
Yeah.
So I can sympathise with Peter. I'm that sort of character. He gets things wrong, but he's there always. But he certainly makes mistakes.
We have to do things to get things wrong.
You do. So he's there. And funnily enough, because they say Peter the Rock, don't they? My nickname with my group of friends is Rock. There's a long story about it, which we haven't got time for today, but I am called Rock.
All right.
So there's a little bit of link there. But the reason I've chosen is John 20, verses 10 to 18, which is where Jesus calls Mary in the garden. So, and that is going back to my local preacher's calling. God spoke to me individually. Didn't say Mary, because that's not my name. He said David. It was a quiet word, and it was individual. And God calls us all individually. We might all do it in a group sometimes, but individually we are named. He knows every one of our names, and that's important to me. I had this at my accreditation service, and I still use it quite a regular occurrence because it does mean quite a lot to me. So, do you want me to read it or?
Well.
I caught you. Great. So then the disciples went back to where they were staying. Now Mary stood outside the tomb crying. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw two angels in white seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and the other at the foot. They asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "They have taken my Lord away," she said, "and I don't know where they have put him." At this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realise that it was Jesus. He asked her, "Woman, why are you crying? Who is it you are looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned towards him and cried out in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus said, "Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, "I have seen the Lord," and she told them all that he had said and the things he had said to her. So yeah, it's quite a powerful 8 verses.
Yeah.
9 verses.
I think that's a passage that I've probably heard 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And yet, as you've read that there's something else that has jumped out at me. And I think there's that thing that happens with us with Scripture all the time, isn't it? Just stepping back, hearing it read by a different voice.
Yeah, different ways, like different emphasis on different words. Yeah.
So for me, that time actually, Mary says, "If you've put him somewhere else, tell me, and I'll go and get him." Who does she think she is? That she can lift a dead body?
yeah. I'd not thought of that, to be fair. It's just that one word, Mary, because it doesn't say, "Mary, come with me," or it's not. It's just one word.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And actually, it snaps her out of this, I'm going to do this in my own strength, and I'm going to bring it back to Dave.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, actually, hang on. I'm not on my own. I'm not where I thought I was.
No.
This changes everything.
Yeah, and I thought, I'm not wandering on my own, definitely. I'm not trying to get by on my own. Jesus is there, and I might not recognise him every time, but he's there at the side of you. Yeah. Yeah. So it's, quite a meaningful verse.
Great.
All verses.
Thank you. What hymn or worship song have you picked for us? We're going to have a break and listen and a sing.
Yeah.
So
sing, you're all right.
I say we, like people at home. You can perhaps sing along in your car when you're listening.
Yeah, I'll just me.
And watching this back. But what song or hymn have you picked for us and why?
I've picked 3 because I'm going to give you the choice to see which one you've got a recording of that you want to use. So I'm quite happy for you to choose any of these 3. All right. So I talked about Joanne Hogg earlier, "Be Thou My Vision." Again, that powerful voice. So again, that's be part of my life. Be Thou My Vision. Be part of me. It's what I aspire to. So that gives me that. Bless the Lord, all my soul. It's one that I do belt out and can sing to when I'm in the car. 10,000 reasons, but I love it. So a more modern one. We're going through the ages here a little bit. But again, so blessed, and we can be thankful 10,000 times when we think about all the things that we're given. Yeah. It's there. And then one that I like to start worship with, it means it's come now is the time to worship, and that's God being at the centre, and providing that facility, that environment for worship. and we'll come to that in a little while as well.
Okay.
So any of those three, your choice, and I'm quite happy which versions you choose.
Well, I'll sit and have a think. Cause
I don't know whether Suzanne's recorded any of them or not.
She's recorded a couple of them.
Yeah. I'm
but
quite happy with your choice on that.
I like the idea of come now is the time to worship fitting in with that passage that you've just read, because essentially it's Mary, come.
Yeah, and
it's
it
Dave,
come, and that comes a little while on. So we'll perhaps go for that.
We'll go with that one then.
We'll go with that one.
Brill.
Excellent.
Here we go.
Just as you are to worship, come, just as you are before your God, come. One day every tongue will confess you are God, one day every knee will bow, still the greatest treasure remains for those who gladly choose you now. Come, now is the time to worship. Come, now is the time to give your heart. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your God. Come. One day every tongue will confess you are God. One day every knee will bow. Still the greatest treasure remains for those who gladly choose you now. Come, now is the time to worship. Come, now is the time to give your heart. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your God. Come.
So, come now is the time to worship. You said you've started many a worship service
With that.
as a local
Okay.
preacher, and in fact, one of my first memories of you, I know you were at my interview, but there were so many other people at my interview that I didn't really.
Yeah.
But I came down a few weeks before starting the job and visited Nuttall and sat kind of at the back on the right-hand
He
side.
was a dodgy preacher.
Very dodgy preacher. And he brought out his remote control
He did.
cars and he was racing them up and down the aisle.
That's
and
right.
I wouldn't like to say that there were comments made by the congregation about woman drivers, because that would be wrong. But there was something about that has stuck with me.
It's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
Even the fact that it came across as this is a children's talk, but as I looked around, there weren't any children
No.
because they were all out at Sunday school.
Yeah.
And yet, you were there and you had everybody in the palm of your hand.
Maybe so, yeah.
Do you feel that when you lead worship?
You've gone off talk now, haven't you?
I have. I'm taking you away from your notes.
It's quite interesting. It's been quite interesting leading worship over the last 18 months on Zoom, or even the last few weeks when we've been able to do live worship, but people have been wearing masks.
Yeah.
And you can't get that feedback from people. Now that's not people shouting at you or even, cheering or many at you or whatever. It's those eye contacts, those people
half
nodding
a
at
smile.
you, half a smile, and you can pretty much go to the church and the one or two people that will always give you that support. And I know because it's so important to me to get that when somebody's preaching and I'm in the congregation, I try to be that person for them as well. And I could probably name them, but I'm not going to embarrass them. But there are those people that give you that support. When people are at home on Zoom and all their voices are off and they're only a little tiny screen or they're wearing a mask, you just can't get it. And I know I've tried to sort of nod a bit more when I've been in worship, so to try and give them that feedback. But I do feel I'm meant to do it. I feel comfortable doing it. I don't get that nervous doing it either. And again, it's something that it's a transferable skill, because again, I have to lead things at work and presentations and interviews and meetings. So to stand up in front of 30, 40, 80, maybe 100 people if we're on a big service is something I feel comfortable with, as long as I've done the preparation.
Okay.
You know that normally my services will be written. I don't always quite stick to, but I can always go back, and they are written as I will speak. But yeah, I do get that feeling that a lot of the time people are with me. It's something I'm meant to do. I'm sure of it, and that's the Spirit with me telling me that.
No,
if I wasn't right, I wouldn't do it. When I'm not feeling right, that's the time to sit down.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No, I do know you like your notes. I do know you like your written sermons, and that's why I've taken you off from your nicely colour-coded, large print old man script here. Yeah. So we'll get back to it.
That's
just
fine.
To get you back in your comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
What in your roles? So both roles again.
Okay.
What in your roles do you get most excited about? What gives you energy? What do you thrive doing?
Okay. So this is something that we've experienced together. So as you know, we've done a course together just before lockdown, wasn't it? And we explored our reason for doing what we do. Yeah. And that was very useful for me. I'd done it at work in why I do work, and that's a slightly different reason to what it is in the church to do why I do what I do. But both my roles are linked in many ways. So for me, it's providing that right facility or the right environment for worship, whether that's the right building and it's warm and welcoming and maintained. You're not looking around thinking, oh, that's not very good, or that needs repairing. It's fine. We're in a nice warm building. We can sit and enjoy worship. It's homely, if you like. We've come home to God. Yeah. Now, whether that's our own building or we're meeting in a rented place doesn't matter. We just need to provide that place of worship. So that's part of it. And then the other part is, when I'm leading worship, is providing that environment and that facility for people to worship. And that's making sure that there are links through my worship. My hymns have been chosen around what I'm speaking about. I've got prayers in there and possibly silent times, because we all go to worship at different times, needing different things. And, we can go to the same service and you'll get something out of the song and I'll get something out of the Bible reading, and somebody else will get something from the message, and somebody else just enjoys the quiet prayers. Yeah. And we've got to make sure we're providing a broad spectrum of experience, if you like, for people to take what they need. So it's making sure I've got that environment set up right and that things are linked, and I'm calm, excited, but calm about what I'm doing, and provide that calm environment for people to be there. But say, if we get excited, we should be excited about worship, but we need to be comfortable. Absolutely. Especially if you're not an experienced worshipper or Christian. That telling people that it's okay if you want to sit down or stand up, or I think one of these things, and we'll call it a cringe factor, is when people say, we all know this message, we've heard it 1,000 times. Yes, 99 out of those 100 people in that congregation will have heard it 1,000 times, but there'll always be that one that might be the first time they've ever walked in church. So it's phrasing things correctly, that we may have heard this, but there might be people who are hearing it for the first time. Yeah. And it's recognising that, or people that might feel hurt by terminology, Father's Day, Mother's Day, all those sort of things. We have to recognise that. And I've grown in that. I recognise more about myself and about other people through things I've grown into, really. Yeah. So
really interesting how much what you've just said echoes that all are welcome at the table.
Yes.
And that your joy and your energy comes from removing those barriers, if you like, and making that place where the table is somewhere that people would want to be. And again, back to buildings, and you like, is it warm? Is it comfortable? If you get distracted by the sermon and you're looking around and you spot a nice patch of mould on the ceiling or whatever, it detracts, and you want to point that focus back to not the preacher, but what the preacher is pointing towards.
We're just the people the words come out of, really. Yeah.
Brill. So that's what you get most excited about. Now I've sat with you in meetings and I've sat with you on Zoom calls, and we've chatted over a pint or whatever.
We have.
Perhaps about some of those things you get less excited about.
Yeah.
What are you going to confess gets you least excited about your roles?
Okay, well, I don't mind the filing and admin. I'm a tidy person, you know that.
Yeah.
So you've seen the photo of the circuit safe, and it's all sorted, and that's fine. I know where everything is. So I don't mind the admin. I've got my files, and I need that. That's me. I hate the meaningless form filling, and then delays that come about because of it. It's got to be. I don't mind form filling if it's for a reason, but sometimes it's meaningless. So don't like that, and I don't like delays. I'm a need to get on and do it and finish it, as you know.
Yeah.
And again, that's a transferable thing, because I work to deadlines at work. I have a date for submitting a price, and if I miss that date, our tender's nil and void, and we've spent quite a lot of money sometimes bidding that job, and if we've missed that date, that's just gone to waste. So I have dates and deadlines where I need to meet. Now, I have to be careful because not everybody works that way, but that's what it is for me. So I'm management terms, I'm a completer finisher, driven to get things done. And sometimes and I recognise this in myself, I'm not always careful on who I might tread on to do that. So I have to be aware of that, especially when we're working with more volunteers as well in the church. But that is where I am. So meaningless, pointless things as they come across to me. And they're not always a no, but we have to do them, I know, but sometimes there are things that we just don't need to do. And I don't like badly led meetings that are not planned, and I don't like badly led courses either that people haven't prepared for.
It sounds, whenever I hear you say those things, it sounds like what's important is the time and using that wisely.
Yes.
And it's about being able to see and to catch that vision. So there's nothing wrong with you being a completer finisher.
No.
Because it complements somebody like me who's more of a dreamer instigator.
Yeah.
I struggle when we get to the completer finisher stage, because I'm like, what's the next idea? What's the next thing I need to get started on? And therefore I could be a frustration to you.
Yeah.
But because we know how each other works.
We know each other well, we work together. You can hand that bit, and I'll have ordered it by the time you've driven home.
And it'll be ready, and it'll be done, and it's good. And it's about knowing within our circuit team who those people are.
Oh, absolutely.
How John was saying to me how he's that same. He wants to just see things done, and he wants to see and use his energy and his time right. And I think that's important. But the more important bit is being aware.
It is, and I think that's for me. It's been, as I said, I did my management course at work, and then we've done something similar through church, through Circuit. Knowing myself, and then knowing other people and understanding the reasons they work as they do.
Yeah.
Probably this last 5-6 years, that's where perhaps my maturity's grown and my understanding and being able to manage that situation. So it's been, as I say, it's a big achievement for me to get there, and it's something I've used and recognised. So,
brilliant. Yeah. As you go about your service to the church and to the circuit, as you go about your daily life, with all of your travel and you're working out different prices for things and bidding on jobs and all that stuff, as you sit at the cricket, as all these things factor into life, and as you seek to do it as a Christian and to grow in your knowledge of yourself, as you just talked about, but a knowledge of God as well, what do you do to encourage that growth?
So I'm glad I've listened to quite a few of these. I've been trying to keep up with them. So it's been good that we've experienced different things. So
there's no need to feel guilty about anything.
I don't feel guilty about not getting up at 5 o'clock like some people or whatever. I'm the same. So I get up in the morning, do all my ablutions and all that sort of stuff, and then come down and have breakfast. The first app on my phone when I switch it on is my Bible. So it's the top left-hand app. That's the first one there. Now, I'm not a big reader. I'm a bit of a soundbite type person. That's how I learn diagrams, sound bites. That one's there. And I have a daily verse, not a daily passage or anything. I have a daily verse that quite often speaks to me. So I don't check my WhatsApp or my emails at all. That is the first, as soon as my phone goes on, that verse is the first thing I read in the morning. So yes, I do have a routine, but it's quite a short routine. But that sets me up for the day. It gives me something to think about during the day. Kids talk about streaks on these sort of things, don't they? So I'm on about, I think, I actually believe I'm on 900 and something, but it says 600 because it cleared after 300. And I don't believe I missed it, but anyway. So I'm definitely on 630 something. I think it's 930 day streak without missing
Maybe
the Bible
you swapped
reading.
phones. And
Something happened, yeah. But anyway, that's where I am. So it's that is daily, but it's short.
Okay.
So that sets me going and perhaps sets me thinking about things. I do contemplate when I'm driving, because I do a little bit of driving. It's not what it was, but I do drive to work and back a bit more now, and to meetings and things. So quite often I'll think about things in those times, especially if I'm going to be preaching. I'll have read the readings a week early and then be contemplating them over during the week. And probably more during lockdown, because I didn't have the driving to do it when I'm running.
Okay.
So I know I'm not built like a runner, but I do enjoy going out a couple of times a week and doing a short run. So, and I don't have music on when I'm doing that. So it's just me, the environment, traffic noise, but just contemplating things in my head. So those are my times. Yeah. Those are my because I'm on my own set aside times. My sermon preparation is important. So not only is my sermon for those 30, 40, whatever people in the congregation, it's for me. Yeah. So that reading it the week before, thinking about it, then writing and things is my in-depth study, if you like. And believe it or not, when you might hear me preach, I'm quite often preaching to myself. So that's important to me. And then if I'm driving sometimes or I'm out, worship songs just put me in the right frame of mind, whether they're quiet or more vigorous songs, whatever they are, they just sometimes put me in the right environment. So that's, that keeps my faith going, definitely. And understanding people more these days, definitely. Seeing their gifts and what they bring. So.
I think that the beauty in what you've just presented is that there are lots of snapshots that all come together to help paint that bigger picture.
Yes.
And on their own, they're all valuable. But for you, when they all come together...
Yeah. It's those little sound bites or whatever you want, snapshots or whatever. So, yeah, definitely.
Okay, so a couple more questions. And these are the ones where we kind of think perhaps a bit more application, a bit more what do we want to see, how do we want to grow, how do we want to go as a circuit.
Okay.
So what have you learnt recently about God that you'd like us to all hear?
It's perhaps one that perhaps a lot of people have thought over this last 18 months or so, is that God's constant through turmoil. Whatever else is happening, and in the world, in our lives or whatever, God is there. There's a difference between whether he's walking at the side of us, or we go to the verse, and he's carrying us, or whatever, running with us in joy, or wherever we are in life, he is constantly with us. So it's that consistency through that turmoil. He never wavers. He's there.
Yeah.
Nothing else changes. And I think talking about learning about myself and about people is his unconditional love for all people.
Right.
And that we need to also accept ourselves and the things that we don't like about ourselves. We've got to accept them and accept other people. The things that we might not believe are the best parts of other people, we need to accept them, because God loves us all conditionally. However we are, however we're dressed, how tall we are, whatever we do, he loves us all. So it's an unconditional love. And I think recognising that is there for everyone, and again, it comes back to that open table. It is there for us all. So we don't need to beat ourselves up, any of us, about who we are just because we don't conform to that norm.
Yep.
We are all individual. We're made in his image, but we are individual people. And he's there with us constantly.
It's obviously something either that I need to hear, because it just keeps coming and coming and coming as this constancy. He's there.
Yeah.
Keep walking, keep going. It's happening, or it's something that somebody else who's watched every episode. Maybe so.
Maybe so.
Maybe this is the point where we should say hi, Ben, because we know that Ben is watching. He's our constant, as well as Jesus, obviously. So I think that's a really good thing for us to take with us, and I think if we get that, other things become easier.
They do, yeah. I think so, because you get that you're busy or whatever, but you always get that time provided, or that gift. Sometimes I don't know, I'm going to get my sermon done this week. When am I going to fit it in? And something else will be cancelled to provide some time, or it's one of those weeks where you just literally sit at your computer and it just goes, and it's on there in 35 minutes, and it's done.
Yeah.
Because God understands that we're busy and we're doing other stuff, and He just provides the time or the facility or the gift for whatever we need to do.
Brilliant.
So, yeah.
And as you look at the adventure that we're on as a circuit, because I think it is an adventure.
It is an adventure.
You've been part of this movement that we've been on since we first dreamt that we might come together as two circuits. You've always been really vocal about the need for us to... You've always been vocal, full stop, end of conversation. No, always been vocal about the need for underpinning it with prayer and for making sure we know what we're doing and why we're doing it. It comes back to that completer finisher, doing things right. And so you've seen us grow to this point. What do you sense God is calling us to, or what is the vision or the hope moving forwards as a circuit together?
It links back to where I am. So again, it's providing those right facilities in the right places, the right environments to worship in, making sure they're all right as church stewards, preparing the building, making sure that's right, as worship leaders, as preachers, as ministers, whatever we are, as group leaders, whether that be youth groups or other things that happen during the week, making sure those things are right and that people are made welcome. Because if that happens, we're providing the environment for people to feel comfortable in, and if they feel comfortable, they'll feel comfortable inviting their friend along or coming again. So we need to make sure that facility is right, but we can't just wait for those people to come through the door. So we've got to be brave. We've got to step outside of our comfort zones and do things we don't like doing. Yeah. There will be challenges for us all. We can't always do what we've always done, what we always enjoy doing. We need to try new things, and they might be outside of the buildings that we're in, outside of something that we feel comfortable doing. So I want us to challenge ourselves and be brave. God's always provided for us. We've talked about His unconditional love for us. He'll provide for us in those things, and some of them might not work, but we've got to give them a go. And if we underpin them with God's love and prayer, then they've got a very good chance of succeeding. And we know where God wants us to lead us. And though some of those might not be next week, we pray about these things, and sometimes they might be 2 or 3 years down the line, but we're preparing for them and getting ready. But we need to look at that. We need to listen to God and go out in His name. We do it in His name. Whatever we do, it's not us. And that it's not all about doing the jobs. Yes, we have to do them, but let's just get through them and just put them to aside. Finish them, put them to aside. That's not bogged down in routines. Let's try and be new and inspiring and just go out there. So.
Amen. That could almost be your prayer.
It could almost be my prayer.
I'm going to ask you to pray as well.
Okay, let's pray. Lord, I just want to thank You for who we are. I want to say thank You for our differences, for where we fit into Your love, that You offer that unconditionally to us, and we are Your children. That Your house, Your love, Your table is open for each and every one of us. I pray that we will get to know ourselves, we'll get to know You, and that we'll get to know others, and that we'll love and support each other. Let us be accepting of one another, welcoming to those who are around and have been for a long while, and those that are new to sharing in Your table, in Your love. And Lord, let us also remember those who are apprehensive in things in their lives at the moment, that need Your support, that need our support. Let us just be Your people in Your world, in Your name, and in your love. Amen.
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 Thank you.
That's all right.
You're another one of these who've printed it out and
well, I had to make
colour-coded your notes. And...
I've got it all noted down. I've been doing it over the last, since you sent it me, I've been jotting bits down. But it's size. And yeah, so I thought, right, that's what I was literally doing, was just finishing off, just printing when you came down. So, yeah, so I did it that way.
There we go.